X-Men Origins Wolverine. I just wish it would ended with this version in it, because man, this is a bad movie. I'm going ahead of myself, but let's get into this. This is by 20th Century Fox or 20th Century Studios this time, since Disney owns it. Yes, and I did see this on Disney Plus. The cast, the not the cast, the it's also by Marvel Entertainment as well as Dune Entertainment. The director is Gavin Hood, and written by David Benioff and Skip Woods. The cast includes Hugh Jackman, Liev Schreiber, Ryan Reynolds, Lynn Collins, Danny Houston, and Taylor Kitsch, as well as Will.i.am from the Black Eyed Peas. Yeah, it's still a very bad movie. I don't even want to talk about it, but I kind of want to do it anyway because it's like catch 22. I want to do this, but yeah, I have to sit through something so sufferable, um, insufferable, really. But in any case, yeah, I did see this in theaters in 2009, and I remember walking out so angry. I want to say pissed off. It's I I think, in my opinion, this is considered the worst of the X-Men films as a whole. And granted, I have not seen any of the other X-Men films after X-Men Days of Future Past. People say the Dark Phoenix is the worst, is one of the worst of them. Even the New Mutants, that is just pretty much that went into developmental hell. That it's not good either. No one really wants to remember that one either. But I think in general, for what X-Men Origins Wolverine did, I think it's pretty much almost often the hated one. And I'm sure there's fans of it, so if you love it, good for you. But for me, it's not. It's not a good movie. This went through a lot of problems, a lot of issues. I mean, first of all, this was originally going to be a kind of an X-Men origins movie about Magneto. There was the idea of after the X-Men 3, The Last Stand, didn't really do that well or left kind of a bad taste. Well, I don't think it's terrible. It's definitely not up to par with the previous films, X-Men films. But still, there was a thought maybe to explore different X-Men and have their origin stories, like focus mainly on like one character this time. And the idea was maybe to do an origin story for Magneto. And interesting. Granted, we only see like a portion of his origin story in the first X-Men film, um, where he was like in a concentration camp. But otherwise, yeah, we don't really see um, you know, a lot done with his character, other than later in the film. So we want to see him evolve. Um, but then, they thought, well, Hugh Jackman was such a popular character and fit perfectly as Logan or Wolverine that it almost made sense to do a movie about Logan, and that's what they did, and it could have been interesting. For me, I don't quite hate prequels, but I don't think they're often needed. Though I give credit, there are certain sequels that do it pretty well. I mean, one is um, the Star Wars: Revenge of the Sith, the third sequel to of the prequel trilogy, and I would even say that in the horror films, we got uh, Ouija: Origin of Evil, which was it's a prequel to the previous film Ouija that got panned heavily. I think it's like sitting at 6% on Rotten Tomatoes currently, those were at least good. And I even remember seeing the not the remake, but it's a prequel just called The Thing, where it does take place backwards. And the interesting thing is, I like that one. I'll probably get into that later. I like that one, but the interesting thing is that I saw that before the original. So, I mean, granted, so would I have liked this movie if had I seen this first before the other X Men films? I don't know. That would have been an interesting thing. But regardless, as for this, I was open to an idea of X, Logan getting an origin story. Granted, though, maybe I didn't want to exactly because I don't know. I think it's often fun and kind of more mysterious, and you don't want to know his backstory. You want to see hints of his backstory, but you don't want to get the full idea of his backstory. It's kind of similar to the Joker always wanted his life to be multiple choice, like his origin story to be multiple choice. And granted, and there have been films that try to do his origin, like Batman '89, and the graphic novel, as well as the film The Killing Joke, did his origin story. So there is quite a I mean there is probably plenty more good prequels that I'm not familiar with, but for the most part I don't get into prequels very much because they kind of oftentimes are pretty predictable. I mean, we know where the character is going to go, especially going into X-Men Origins Wolverine. I know eventually that Logan's going to get his claws, because that's an obvious given, and he's going to lose his memory, however way they want to do it. So I didn't feel like, and even though the film later on tries to kind of say he's going to get killed or at times, it doesn't really make a lot of difference. We know we know. There's the movies. There's the other movies that are basically tells a story before, after. So it doesn't seem warranted really. Um, but I don't know. I mean, feel free to mention any other prequels you like. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not quite into prequels really, but I don't hate them. In any case, yeah, X-Men Origins Wolverine went through a lot of studio meddling, uh, with a rush script, some disservice to a lot of some classic X-Men characters, and the writing wasn't on par. It just felt like it. They just studio just want to push it out and just say, it's X-Men Origins Wolverine. Because Wolverine's in it, Hugh Jackman's in it. He's gonna bring us the money, and unfortunately, it didn't even do that. And this, yeah, oh yeah, and I forgot to mention also really bad effects, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, I think actually I'll get into this now. I want to get this over with, rip it off like a band-aid, really. But yeah, let's get into X-Men Origins Wolverine. So the story, okay, fair warning. I'm probably likely going to give. I think because nowadays this is considered not canon to the original trilogy, Bryan Singer trilogy, or in the X-Men 3, as well as it's not canon to the prequel films trilogy. So it's forgotten entirely. So I think it's almost fair to just kind of go ahead and give spoilers away and talk about it a little bit. But fair warning: if you have not seen X Men Origins Wolverine and you really really want to, click out now, go watch it, come back later, and hear my thoughts on it, as best I can. But in any case, you got Logan played by Hugh Jackman. We see him as kids, as well as his brother Victor, who later becomes is played by Liv Schreiber, or is AKA known as Sabretooth. And that's already one problem, is that Wolverine and Sabretooth are not brothers. I don't actually know what their kind of origin story, other than they just want to be better than one another, or just want to basically kill each other. So that's already strike one. But we see how this young Logan, or at the time his name was Jimmy or James, and gets his powers, and we see, actually the only good thing in the movie is the opening credits scene, where we see how they go through many wars, like the Civil War, the World War I, World War II, the Vietnam War. They went through a lot of wars, and that was probably the most interesting part. And frankly, rewatching this, I almost want to see them in the one of those wars and rather see the rest of the movie, to be perfectly honest, because um, that would have been more interesting. In any case, yeah, they grown up, but eventually they move into Weapon X. Thanks, they're recruited by William Stryker, played by Danny Houston, and they have to do some missions. And when Logan eventually calls it quits because the team was getting too violent against innocent people, so he leaves. He has a quiet life. But then when William Stryker and Victor and Sabretooth comes back, involving a death of someone he cares about, he goes on a revenge quest to basically take down his former his brother and Sabretooth, as well as William Stryker. Um, and then we eventually get to see him get the claws and the adamantium claws and whatnot. Yeah, I already said this is not a good movie by any means. Is it? And yes, I do think this is the worst of the X-Men films. Rewatching it again, it didn't make me as angry, but it's just a bore to sit through. The action's not exciting enough. Even some of the action is super silly. At times, there's like one character named Zero, and I even had to look this character up, and I don't remember his name or the actor who played him. He was pretty forgettable, but he's kind of like not Diamond Store, Dollar Store Deadpool in a way, because he's supposed to have this. He's a mutant with super reflexes as well as super precision, which I mean, it's like Deadshot trying to give Deadshot mutant abilities and say he can do it. Yeah, it's not. I don't get it. Maybe they don't really focus on that character that much, so I don't really care. Um, there's there's that character. Um, as for the main ones, we got Hugh Jackman returning as Logan, in which he still does a good job, but even I admit he just doesn't sound as engaged. He tries to be, definitely. He definitely is trying. But for the most part, he's just kind of slumming it. He's just not. He doesn't really seem to be that into it as he was in the previous films. Um, that I will say, the casting is fine. I think Liv Schreiber could be a good Sabretooth if they were given more to work with. But as well as Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. They're both great. Liv Schreiber, I think, could be a good Sabretooth. Though, granted, we don't exactly see how he got his mutant abilities and whether or not his, as a kid, and how his parents either looked at him as a mutant or something like that. We don't really see that. And we don't even get how he became, because he almost seemed like he hated his brother in the beginning, and all of a sudden they seem to, try to get along or do stuff because they're just satisfied like their bloodlust or enjoy of killing people. And I don't know, there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason. It's like their motivations are simplistically, what's the word I'm looking for? As much as I like simple motivations, this is simplistically ridiculous. Honestly, there could have been more to it. There could have been more involving how the war really affected them. And I mean, there's a little bit, I guess you could say, with Sabretooth with the bloodlust, but otherwise, nothing involving how he eventually turns on Logan, or I'm not calling him Jimmy. I'm just not. I know that's technically, and even in the comics, that his name, but it's Logan. And regardless, yeah, they don't really give much of an identity outside. He's just wants to be better than Logan, a better killer basically. Um, so there's I don't know. Danny Houston does fine, but I don't think he's not that very bright. Even the moment where he's giving Logan his adamantium claws, he doesn't take any precautions in case somehow how Logan wakes up and tries to escape. He never takes precautions. Um, I don't know. And granted, that's part of the comics, I guess. So regardless, um, and then there's Will.i.am. I'm not a Black Eyed Peas fan, but I think Will.i.am did alright as Wraith. He's kind of like Nightcrawler. He teleports around. But his scenes are pretty short lived overall. Same thing with the Blob. I forget his name all of a sudden, but any characters I don't list in the beginning, I'll probably just list them here. Not list them here, but list them somewhere. But the Blob, I think, was a huge. They really did him dirty because he's supposed to be a mutant, and even in the beginning, you see him like this kind of strong guy, buff, kind of like an expendable character from the movies. Um, and then apparently years go by, and he just got fat. The fatness is not part of his mutant ability. He just let himself go. Yeah, and I don't know a ton about the Blob other than I've seen played him in certain games, like not played him, but I've seen him in certain games like X-Men Legends. Um, but yeah, I don't get it. He's supposed to be a classic character, and they kind of just crapped on him really. Um, and there's and of course we have the biggest disservice with Deadpool, played by Ryan Reynolds, also or Wade Wilson. He's Ryan Reynolds is very short lived in the beginning, but at the end he is he apparently he's been created to basically have all these kind of mutant abilities taken from other mutants. And yes, there are other mutants like a younger Cyclops, a younger Emma Frost, and and even there's a younger Patrick Stewart. Yes, I am revealing too much. Yes, a younger Patrick Stewart with really bad de-aging effects. But in any case, back to Deadpool, he looks awful. He looks, especially the fact that they sewed his mouth shut. They kept his mouth shut, and that's not part of the Deadpool's character. I remember Deadpool very fondly in the Marvel's Ultimate Alliance. When I saw this character, I didn't know who this character was, but as soon as I played him and I interacted with him on in the game, I liked him. I loved him. He was fun. So, and he was fun to play with. But yeah, this it's not Deadpool. And like I said, I brought up in the intro that I think Deadpool 2's ending would have been better for this movie. Um, yeah, it's I don't know what else to say. It's not very good. Even the action stuff with him are not very good. So, yeah, uh, it's not very good. Okay, what about like the other action? Action mixes between average to boring. It even kind of again pretty silly action scenes. Even another character I forgot to mention, Taylor Kitsch plays Gambit, and he's underutilized in this, and the writing doesn't help him very much. There's like a moment where he spins in the air with his staff, and I don't know if he ever did that in the comics, but that looks even silly. Um, again, I mentioned Zero earlier. He does this one flip thing, like he kind of does like this backflip, and he manages to go that far into a compound area, and it's again very silly. There's just a lot of silly stuff, and the effects. Again, majority of the effects is just either average, but there's like one effect in the film where Logan supposedly the second time discovers his claws because his adamantium claws. This was after his escape, and the effects for his claws are so cartoony. It's so bad. It looks almost like not CG effect. It looks like kind of clip art from a computer that somehow that was given motion, or like some of the claw effects that maybe I put on my I don't remember exactly, but on my previous X-Men thumbnails. It just looks bad. I I don't get it. This film had $150 million in its budget, and yet even in the past X-Men films, it got where even the first film had $75 million. How was that possible? And the claws in that were good. I don't get it. It's it doesn't work. None of it works. We even see her Logan's love interest, Kayla, played by Lynn Collins, who Again, spoiler warning, but I mean, I've already said spoiler warning earlier. She plays Silver Fox, and I never heard of this character. Um, Granted, I could have gotten the hint early on that she was a mutant because apparently she was a teacher in the film, and one of the kids call her Silver Fox, and like, what kind of name? What kind of last name is that? I don't know. Maybe there is a last name, some similar to that, but I don't know. I didn't buy it. But apparently, she has this ability where when she can influence people's minds, like mind control them through touch. Um, and her, how she ended up with Logan is so beyond Rush, and I did not care about their relationship. There was like no indication how they met, what their life was like. It just supposed to be it's just like a hands on a silver platter saying this is Logan's love interest at whatever. Uh yeah, I don't know. I am getting pretty angry right now just talking about it. Um I I don't even want to keep reviewing because this is just uh yeah, I remember finding it boring. There were moments where it could have been explored, like there was the old couple that Logan meets early on, and I kind of saw a setup that it was going to be similar to, say, um, I'm not sure, Superman. I mean, it's not exactly Superman, but you can kind of get the idea or the comparison a little bit. Um, Again, some of the action scenes were not great or average. I know I'm repeating myself, but I'm just trying to remember all these things because again, I don't have a script, but working off this, but I'll try to I'll try to do that. And yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything else to say. I mean, it's just not that good. Will.i.am is again. I think he's did all right. Just not memorable, really. Yeah, there's not a lot to like about this film. It just feels like it's it did feel rushed. It did feel like they were just didn't read much of the comics or just focus on the other parts and then try to change things that didn't make a lot of sense or difference. Even certain characters that come back, like or have their origin with like Cyclops and Emma Frost. Um, it's it's small, but it's there, and it's just forgettable. Um, yeah, I don't know. There's really nothing really worth talking about. There's nothing really worthy about the film. Um, yeah, I'm gonna end it here. I think I'm gonna give X-Men Origins Wolverine 1 star. Why 1 star? I don't know. To be honest, I think once after my 100th review, I'm gonna probably get away from doing the half star um, bit. I mean, I will give it this because it is shot fine. It looks in terms of cinematography, it looks fine. It looks pretty good. Um, some there's there like I said, there could be some good action scenes. The opening credits were very good, and probably the most memorable thing in the film, along with Logan and Wolverine. But otherwise, there's nothing of value. It's it's pretty much forgotten. It's already forgotten. But if you want to check it out for yourself and see, especially if you have this to happen to be watched through the spoilers, um, go ahead and check it out if you wish. But I wouldn't waste your time, to be perfectly honest. So, excuse me. I had a burp coming. But yeah, 1 star. I wouldn't waste your time. So what are your thoughts on X-Men Origins Wolverine? Leave in the comments below. Give a like or dislike the review if you wish. Feel free to subscribe to my channel if you like what you're seeing. This is the 99th review and that I'm doing, and so the next review is my 100th review. Thank you all for subscribing. I hope you enjoy it. Um, I know I got plenty of good some friendly reviews on some videos, others not enough likes, but I'm trying, I'm learning, I'm hoping to get better as I go. um, but yeah, I give this 1 star, and I will see you guys in the next review. And my next review, I imagine, is going to be a lot worse than X-Men Origins Wolverine, and it's nothing superhero related. That's another hint. Tally just knocked something over. Sorry. In any case, I will see you guys in the next review.